So the third eye.
Probably one of the most popular ones, huh? I hear that a lot.
Yeah, you really do that. So when you hear third eye, it's not talking about this metaphysical eye on your forehead. It's more just your perception of the things around you outside of yourself. Your awareness of all the interconnected parts. I believe this is where we really start getting into the higher self, as far as the clairvoyance to have when you are seeing things for how they are. And the more up close we are to things, the less clear things become because they get to be personal. Begin to add ourselves onto the things around us to project our own views and feelings. And it's truly where intuition is cultivated, where insight is cultivated, clarity. The more we can step out of ourselves to look at a situation for what it is, the greater perspective we will have.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people struggle with this because, again, we get so lost in our minds and trying to make sense of everything. And again, our minds will do just that. It's an analytical machine. It will try to compute any equation you give it. When you start to see the humanism in every person, that the strengths and weaknesses, that no one is perfect, that there is no perfect situation, we begin to accept things as they are instead of how we want to see them, which I think is one of the big transitions from youth to adulthood. You know, you go around thinking life is this simple thing: get through school, get a job, have a house. And all of a sudden you start realizing, oh wow, bills. Oh wow, relationship struggles. Children.
It's funny you described it that way. And I will say, though, it can be a metaphysical eye in the center of your forehead if that's what helps you see through it. But it's funny how you described it there, because it really is like this command center, right, of perception. It's like, there's all these dudes and chicks doing stuff, and they're like, pushing buttons kind and making things move and whatever. But it's like this command center of perception. It is the center of perception, really. This is the one that I really found like there's a good axiom for, and the heart one too. There is a good axiom for: love will always subdue hate. But here it is: perception is reality, right? Because this really is our inner sight. But ironically, the sight is inner, but it helps us see outer everything if we practice, if we get used to using it instead of just our eyes all the time.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up the whole perception is reality. So many of us live in these horrible worlds we've made up in our minds.
Yeah.
We have in these situations where we feel stuck. It's a theme throughout a lot of the things we talk about. The perception you have is only as limited as much as you're willing to see beyond it.
Yeah. I always hear people talk about the Matrix. I have to wonder every time I hear that. I have to wonder how many people are living in their own matrices. I guess that's how you'd say it.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I have this theory, not to go too far off the deep end, where it's like you look at collective consciousness and how people are becoming more and more isolated. Mm-hmm. Well, everyone sort of had a group consciousness. Everyone had this group perspective when religion was much more dominant. We had much more strength in communities, less communication through technology. And so everyone sort of was held accountable to a degree and was exposed to different thoughts and opinions much more readily. Well, now we're like dividing ourselves so much because we're all drifting into our own perceptive worlds, and we don't like it being challenged, and it's breeding more and more isolation because it's harder and harder to find people who see reality the same way we do, because whether it's the algorithms in social media or the movies and Netflix series we decide to binge, that's what's now dictating how we think reality should be and how people should behave.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, I look at it as everyone's sort of drifting apart. Most people were on sort of a similar timeline with a few loose threads, and now it's just completely frayed, where community is not nearly what it used to be.
Yeah.
As well as belief systems.
Yeah. And that's how you know that it's imbalanced or closed off, because you start to mistrust what you see. You start to mistrust your intuition, or like you said, you live in that fantasy or that illusion.
Yeah.
But when it's open, when it's clear, you truly start to see things as they actually are. You can meet reality where it is. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
But you also have this where you can kind of see things in cooperation with your actual physical senses. This creates another sense that really gives you like this divine clarity. You can actually see the unseen. You understand things without without any really necessary explanation. And that's kind of the thing too. So we think of it as an eye, and this is important to remember. It's not always, doesn't always have to be an eye, right? You don't have to use it to see, but you definitely can receive information through there too, to start to know things. That really empowered intuition, I guess, is what we'd call it.
Well, and it's so true, though. I mean, that is how you cultivate intuition, truly.